Could a perfect language exist? Chapter 1. The Dream of a Perfect Tongue. The first time I heard someone promise a perfect language, I was 9 years old and holding a cracked seashell to my ear. It hissed like the ocean, and my grandfather, a patient man who believed in impossible things, said, "If you listen carefully enough, every sound is a sentence." He meant music, wind, the click of a bicycle chain, the quiet grammar of the world itself. I took him literally. I tried to learn this oceanic syntax. I drew tiny diagrams on lined paper, arrows for currents and squiggles for sand, convinced there was a code beneath the messy surface that would let me say anything to anyone and be understood completely, perfectly, without the traps of confusion or the bruises of misunderstanding. A perfect language. Imagine it. One in which every sentence has exactly one meaning, where every word carries its load precisely, delivering it to the listener's mind without dents or spillages, where jokes still land, but they land intentionally, where lies are detectable as aberrations, and where silence is not a void, but a meaningful glyph. Imagine agreeing with someone, or disagreeing, without the heat we produce when we push our words like rickety carts along broken roads. Imagine the road itself paved and level, smooth enough for the most fragile thought to arrive intact. The dream is old. It passes like a lantern through the centuries, carried by monks and mathematicians, by poets and philosophers, by optimists and tyrants. Every few generations, someone raises it high and says, "Here, we will end the confusion." They propose a neat system, a universal grammar, a set of signs that cannot be mistaken. They hope to repair the human condition by editing our dictionaries. But words do not just describe the world, they organize it. They are not photographs, they are cities. A city of lanes and alleys, boulevards and blind turns, history etched into street names and galleries of slang that bloom in the cracks. You cannot bulldoze a city into a blueprint and still call it a city. And yet, the dream persists. Let me introduce you to 4 dreamers, and through them, 4 versions of perfection. I'll tell you their stories the way I'd want to hear them in a late-night radio program softly, with the feeling that we are almost alone in the world, that our attention is a small fire shared between us. First dreamer, the engineer. He sits at a particle board desk beneath a dying ficus with bright yellow leaves. His keyboard has lost its letters, the way a well-worn coin loses its face. His code editor glows. Monospaced font, black background, a constellation of symbols. He is a systems engineer, a believer in protocols and checksums. What he wants from language is what he wants from networks. No dropped packets. He tells me about a time when a minor ambiguity cost his company a fortune. A specification document had the sentence, "The unit shall be installed near any existing power source." Near, it turned out, meant different things to different contractors. The engineer wanted, more than any pay raise, to exile near from all professional writing. Give him a language with guaranteed semantics. Near becomes within 3 meters. Soon becomes within 7 calendar days. Adverbs become timestamps. Context becomes a table. All that squishiness we accept as part of human speech, he would squeeze it out like air from dough. He is not unromantic, only weary. Think of a perfect language as an interface, he says, tapping his screen. Not pretty, not metaphorical, useful. 0 loss, 0 guessing. He sketches a design, finite base words, each with a fixed reference in a shared lexicon. Every complex sentence becomes an algebraic composition. Like Lego bricks, they snap together with precision. You can compile a paragraph to check for contradictions before you say it aloud. He has a name for it, something sleek and technical, and, though I won't repeat it, you know the vibe. An operating system for meaning. I ask him where jokes would live in such a language. He smiles. On a higher layer, he says, as if humor could be mounted like a file system. You can have protocols for play. He is partially right. We could, if we wanted, design a register of our speech, especially in fields where stakes are high, to prune ambiguity and insist on measurements. Pilots already talk like that when they can afford no misunderstandings. Say niner instead of nine. Read back instructions verbatim. There is a certain beauty in it. Clarity can be a kind of mercy. But not all mercy is measurement, and not all truth is a unit. The engineer's dream helps us speak when we share a blueprint. It falters when we need to share a fear. What does near mean when I tell you, stay near me at the funeral? 3 meters is technically correct and emotionally wrong. In the airport security line, if I whisper to my mother, don't go far, I am not asking for a radius. I am offering a radius of care. A perfect language for machines may be flawless and small. A perfect language for human beings would have to be flawless and large, so large it could hold both the meter and the metaphor, both crisis procedure and the kiss. The engineer's model tells us something crucial, though. Sometimes perfection is the right constraint for the right domain in the right moment. The question is not, could a perfect language exist? It is, for what? Second dreamer. The philosopher, she lives with a whiteboard the size of a mattress. Every inch is a forest of arrows and quantifiers. She loves the tenderness of logic, how it holds even wild thoughts with firm hands. She makes tea at midnight and circles the same word 3 times, softly, as if it might confess. What she wants from language is truth preservation. She doesn't mind if people misunderstand her taste in music. She wants a way to state claims about the world that cannot be misread. Her perfect language is austere. Its words are needles, and propositions are stitches. If you thread them carefully, you can mend reality. Ask her what goes wrong with natural languages, and she'll mention vagueness first. Heap, bald, rich, cold. All these words have soft edges that blur when inspected. Look straight at them, and they scatter. Did one grain of sand really change a pile into a heap? Did one hair change bald to not bald? She draws the Sorite's paradox with delight, the way others draw faces. We evolved with fuzziness because it was useful. No tribe needed an exact threshold for cold to know to huddle by the fire. But precision saves us when the world becomes sharper than our instincts. Cancer is detectable at stage X. The medicine is toxic above dose Y. She dreams of a perfect language that carries crisply cut concepts in each syllable, with built-in proofs for each claim. She shows me a 2-column ledger. In the left column, natural sentences. In the right, their formal translations. Some swans are black, she says, should be as clear as there exists X, swan, X, lambda black X. You don't even need the swans anymore, only the structure. She laughs at her own joke. Swanlessness is clarity. I find myself grateful for her seriousness. She protects a domain that needs protection. But I also wonder, what gets shaved away when we sharpen the world like this? When I tell you that my friend is kind, I am not listing predicates. I am placing you in a penumbra of possibilities. He will bring soup when you are sick. He will notice when your voice changes. He will lose sleep to drive you to the airport. The perfect language for kindness may not be a language at all. It may be a history of gestures, at which point we are not speaking, we are living. The philosopher insists that her perfect language is not for everything. It is a tool for certain tasks, framing hypotheses, testing consistency, exposing contradictions. A scalpel cannot slice bread. She would never operate on a friendship, and yet a part of her aches for wider scope. Could we translate even moral claims, even aesthetic experiences, into a pristine syntax? Could we anchor beauty and goodness the way we anchor arithmetic? This is where I want to place a gentle signpost. The perfect language, if it exists, cannot be purchased wholesale by a single discipline. It is a federation of perfections. The philosopher's precise statements, the engineer's robust protocols, the poet's uncontaminated images, the mother's instinctive hush, each is a local maximum of clarity. None alone is a globe. Third dreamer. The poet, he doesn't own a whiteboard, he owns a window. He likes to think that every word is a window arranged in a house, and poems are the strange angles you get when panes catch the same light at once. He can watch the same street for an hour and accumulate a language thick as soup, laundry lines, a boy running with a kite, the sound of 3 heavy vowels from a fruit cellar 2 doors down. What he wants from a perfect language is resonance. He tells the story of a time when his daughter learned the word blue. He had imagined she would use it like a tag: blue ball, blue sky, blue blanket. Instead, she held the word like a lint brush, scouring the house for every blue it could catch. That chair under the window, half in shadow? Blue. The ice in a glass? Blue. The neighbor's cat's 2 light eyes? Blue. A bruise? Blue. A new bruise? More blue. He realized then that blue in his mind had been a pin stuck in a map. In hers, it was a rain cloud. The poet distrusts precision when it comes at the cost of fullness. If the philosopher declares blue to be a segment on the spectrum between wavelengths X and Y, the poet says, yes, but also the first day of school, also the note that seemed too pure for the human throat, also the shirt a lover left behind. A perfect language, to him, is one where the word blue can be the sky and the bruise and the piano note, and where you can know which one he means from the way his voice leans on the vowel, from where the word sits in the sentence, like a stone in a stream. He believes that ambiguity is not a bug, but a many-roomed house in which we meet one another halfway. He is not naive. He knows how hurt and manipulation shelter in the same rooms. He has been wounded by the sort of sentence that slithers to fit whatever hole it must to escape accountability. He wants a perfect language that protects us from harm without evicting the paradox. He wants a tongue that is both safe and wild, a fair demand for a parent, a nearly impossible demand for a system. I ask him what perfection means if it allows 2 meanings. He asks me how a chord means 2 notes at once and is thereby made perfect. He plays me a minor third on a battered guitar, and the room grows smaller, tender and sad, like evening. This is precision too, he says. Not the precision of one, but the precision of together. He dev mind. His insistence complicates things, and that is good. If we are serious about the possibility of a perfect language, we must accept that perfection may be plural. A diamond is perfect because of its lattice. A forest's perfection is the opposite, its messy, interwoven cycles. A language, if it aspires to be perfect for human beings, must learn both kinds of shimmering. Fourth dreamer. The mother. She carries 3 bags because she refuses to leave behind snacks, tissues, or a small stuffed frog that has become a passport to bedtime. She is too tired to theorize. What she wants is for the people she loves to understand her when it counts. She wants her partner to grasp the difference between "I'm fine" and "I'm fine." She wants her child to hear "no" as guardrails and not as a prison. She wants to know how to say "I need help" without feeling she has betrayed some law she never agreed to. Her perfect language is not a library or a ledger or a poem. It is a set of gestures, predictable enough to trust and flexible enough to still feel like love. True, she can list the sentences that save lives. Call an ambulance. There is an allergy. She cannot breathe. But most days, the perfection she craves is smaller. I hear you. I'm not going anywhere. Let's try again. She wants a language that never trivializes comfort, that treats reassurance not as filler, but as a necessary grammar. Subjects, verbs, objects, tenderness. She is not a dreamer in the pejorative sense. She is not an engineer of utopias, or a philosopher of crystalline verities, or a poet of deliberate shadows. She is a realist with the audacity to love. She evaluates a language the way she evaluates a chair. Does it hold us? Does it hurt? Can I carry it 3 flights of stairs by myself? Her test of perfection is field-tested. Teenagers, a migraine, a mortgage, by her measure, any perfect language must be learnable by a tired mind in a crowded kitchen, which disqualifies many exquisite schemes. The keepers of failure. Historically, every attempt at a perfect language has exposed a seam in our desires. The builders of universal tongues hoped to bypass culture. Culture noticed and took offense. The champions of logic wished to purge nonsense. Nonsense returned blurred, wearing lipstick. The idealists of neutrality discovered that even neutrality is a pose with politics. We have tried geometry. Build language like a Euclidean proof. We have tried taxonomies. Assemble a cosmic filing cabinet and tag each noun. We have tried Auxlang's auxiliary languages of deliberate design, whose grammar is streamlined and whose vocabulary is shareable. Each move stabilizes some part of meaning. Each move lets another part slip away. Why? Because meaning is not only in the words, it is in the mouth that says them, the breath, the room, the history of every prior conversation and expectation. When I say yes after being asked, "Are you okay?" I might be telling you, "No, in a way my culture has trained me to hope you will hear. You do not fix this with better vocabulary. You fix this with a better we." That does not make the dream foolish. It makes it conditional. Ask not, "Does a perfect language exist?" as if perfection were an object waiting under a sheet. Ask, "Under which conditions is a language perfect enough for its purpose?" A triage nurse and a mountaineer and a playwright and a couple in a storm all need different instruments. Possibly. Perfection is a family of good fits. Shannon taught us to think about information as something that moves through noisy channels. If you build redundancy into the message, repeat, sample, pattern, you can outsmart the noise. Natural language is redundant in the same way. It is full of hints and echoes that allow us to reconstruct meaning even when the line fuzzes. The very traits that frustrate people who want to clean language, repetition, context, idioms, also make it robust. If we insisted on a denoised code, every word exactly once, every sentence minimal, we might find ourselves surprisingly brittle, like glass in a hailstorm. Perfection is sometimes maligned as the enemy of good. But perhaps the right phrase is that global perfection is the enemy of local genius. House a whole planet's hopes for communication in one immaculate scheme, and you will build a cathedral that collapses under its own echo. Allow small temples, a lexicon designed for aviation, a sign language that captures shape and speed, a programming language optimized for security, a ritualized script for grief, and you can stack perfections like stones that make a shelter. Still, the dream persists for a reason beyond utility. We want to be understood. We want to hand ourselves over in words and have the recipient open their palm and find us there, not mangled, not misrepresented, not oversimplified. Any serious person will admit that words cannot guarantee that miracle, but miracles are rarely guaranteed. We invite them anyway. The longing for a perfect language is the longing for a world in which love and truth travel without abrasion. A little lab experiment. Try this. Choose a memory that hurts, not excruciatingly, but in that provincial way old teachers and first kisses and broken umbrellas hurt. Describe it in 5 sentences. Read them aloud. Now, shrink them. The same memory in 5 words. Now expand. The same memory in 50. Note what gets lost and what appears. In the 5-word version, perhaps you find a perfect clarity you didn't have before. In the 50-word version, perhaps you find a texture that matters more than clarity. Which version is more perfect? The mathematician in the room will vote for 5, admiring the compression. The novelist will point to 50, admiring the spilled light. But if the goal is simply to put the memory into another person's hands so carefully that nothing valuable falls, perhaps the answer depends on who that person is. Maybe your brother needs 5. Maybe your friend needs 50. Maybe your therapist needs neither. She needs the pause between sentence 3 and 4 where your breath breaks. Language is not just what we say. It is the choreography of saying. A universal, timeless, cultureless, perfect language would have to simulate those pauses for every human being now and later. It would need to index not only world facts, but the weight of each fact in each heart. It would need to carry not only references, but relevance. The problem is not intractable because human beings are mysterious. It is intractable because human beings are multiple. The same person is different at 8 a.m. and at midnight, at 20 and at 60, in grief and in laughter. If a perfect language exists, it would be an adaptive one, the way your friend adapts their tone when you have not slept. What our mouths know. Some truths about talk live deeper than vocabulary. A good kindergarten teacher knows them. Get down to the child's eye level. Say their name first, then the request. Make the request concrete. Leave room for the child to save face. These are embodied grammars. They are not carved into syntax charts, yet they produce perfection more reliably than abstract cleanliness. They remind us that language is a body activity before it is a code. Lips, jaw, diaphragm, posture. We use words to label, yes, but also to make space. Tell me more is not a question, it is a clearing. Take your time is not a permission, it is a structure. A perfect language would have to understand that some sentences are acts, and that their correctness is measured not by their truth value, but by the worlds they open or close. Austin called them performatives, but long before he coined the term, a mother somewhere said, "I name you," and an infant became a person in a family. Think of the sentences that built you. I'm proud of you. That's not who you are. Try again. You can stay. They are perfectly understandable in any language, translatable, not word for word, but heart for heart, because they are not only utterances, they are commitments. This is crucial. A language can be flawless as a dictionary and still fail without the commitments that animate it. The perfect language is anchored not only in semantics, but in ethics. The dangers of perfection. We must guard against the misuse of perfection as a cudgel. If a company or government insists on a perfect language to end misunderstanding, ask who gets to define perfect. Ask whose dialect is being erased, whose play is being banned, whose silence is being criminalized. Many historical attempts at ideal languages were also attempts at control. To clear the square of unruly words, to flatten the mouth so that the empire can hear only what it wants. The impulse to purge ambiguity can smuggle in an impulse to purge dissent. But dissent is one of the ways a language stays honest. Slang, sarcasm, code switching, satire, they are immune systems. They fight infection by meanings imposed from above. A perfect language that cannot support irony will collapse the first time people are afraid. A perfect language that cannot produce a secret keeps no one safe. Perfection, then, must be patient with mess. It must welcome multiple registers, leave doors open, allow neighborhoods of speech to keep their peculiar music. It must be strong enough to contain improvisation. There is an architecture for this, a kind of urban planning of the tongue. Not a single highway through a desert, but a city with buses and bicycles and streets that slow cars enough to keep children alive. The field guide to almost perfections. Let's inventory the practical perfections already among us. Emergency protocols. Simple, unambiguous, tested. They are perfect for chaos. Tell a 5-year-old how to dial for help. Watch how the words change in their little mouth until they fit. This is design. Technical standards. Aviation phraseology, surgical checklists, cryptographic proofs. They forgive no whimsy and block precise categories of harm. They are perfect for risk. Ritual speech. Vows, condolences, apologies, blessings. They distill large emotions into sentences that have carried countless bodies across difficult thresholds. They are perfect for meaning too large to improvise. Narrative. The long, slow clarity of a story that lets us see ourselves, not perfect in the engineer's sense, but often the most effective way to get a complex notion into the bloodstream of a culture. They are perfect for persuasion through identification. Play. Jokes and songs and teasing and flirtation. They loosen the joints of the day and make room for new moves. They are perfect for discovery. If we systematize these registers, if we taught children early that language has gears and that wisdom is knowing which gear a moment asks for, we might get very close to the perfection we seek. Not a universal solvent that dissolves all knots, but a toolkit that respects knots as part of the rope. A parable of the bridge. In a coastal town, 2 neighborhoods are split by a river. On one bank, the engineers draw a bridge with clean lines. On the other, the artists string lights and paint boats and argue about the color of dawn. They cannot agree on a design. Finally, the elders say, "Build two." The first bridge is of steel. It carries trucks and deadlines. The second is of wood. It sways a little in the wind and smells like sap. On festival nights, songs cross it before people do. Children grow up with both bridges as matter of fact. When they are old, they will not debate whether a steel bridge is better than a wooden one. They will ask, "What are you carrying today?" The perfect language might be like that twin bridge town. We do not choose once and for all between a rigid clarity and a living swing. We cross depending on cargo and weather. We teach everyone to use both, and we keep them maintained. Perfection is not a single shape. It is a relationship between shapes and needs, how we get there, or close. If perfect is a trap word, swap it for fit. Begin at the end. What is the outcome we need from this act of speech? Safety, agreement, inspiration, comfort, information. Design the language for that end. Then test it the way we test bridges. Assemble a diverse group, different ages, different dialects, different attentional styles, and see where the sentences fail. Iterate. This is work, not magic. Make context visible. When sending instructions, say for whom they are written and under what assumptions. When telling a story, note its origin and its intended home. A perfect language would make context part of the grammar, not a footnote. We can do this already. For new interns, during the first week, in a loud environment, the following matters. Make kindness a primitive. Not an add-on, not a cultural style, but a first-class token. Create norms where people can ask for clarification without shame and offer it without condescension. Perfection is not arriving at a language with no need for, "What did you mean?" It is normalizing that question so thoroughly that misunderstanding never metastasizes into humiliation. Make visual and tactile equivalents. For some, words on a page are a fog. For others, speech is an ocean. Design the same meaning into gestures, diagrams, examples, demonstrations. A perfect language is multimodal. It knows we have different doors and knocks at more than one. Make room for silence. Build pauses into the grammar the way music does. A period is not a stop so much as a breath. In a perfect language, waiting is not a failure to speak. It is a meaning completed by time. Make humility not only a virtue but a feature. Add a marker that says, "This claim is weak evidence." Another that says, "This is anecdotal." Another, "This is sacred to me." Handle with care. These are not decorations. They are structural honesty. The right kind of hedging is precision, the precision of scope, the hope inside the question. Could a perfect language exist? It depends on where we are willing to locate perfection. If we seek it in the words alone, we will be disappointed, as our predecessors were, though not for lack of brilliance. If we seek it in the ecosystem words, bodies, rooms, norms, rituals, technologies, we can assemble a language practice that behaves more often than not like a bridge that does not collapse and like a porch where people linger. Perfection becomes less a static noun and more a verb, to perfect. We perfect our instructions so that planes land and medicines dose. We perfect our consolations so that a child at a funeral knows they are not alone. We perfect our dissent so that it resists cruelty without becoming cruel. We perfect our jokes so that they bruise no one we love and liberate someone who needs air. In this sense, the perfect language is a horizon that moves as we walk, always out of reach, always guiding our steps toward better light. I think of my grandfather with his seashell. I think of the ocean he promised was speaking to me in a code I could learn. He was wrong in a way that makes him right. The ocean's language is not a cipher for us to crack. It is a reminder that meaning often arrives as a presence before it arrives as a proposition. If you listen carefully enough, every sound can be a sentence, but only if you are willing to let world and self teach you how to read it. So, could a perfect language exist? Yes, in the same way a perfect day exists not as an immaculate object immune to change, but as a set of fitted parts that, for a while, align weather, company, appetite, purpose, time. The perfect language is a day you make with others, deliberately, with care for what you're carrying and where you're going. Tomorrow we will try to build it piece by piece. We will chart the properties any candidate must satisfy. Unambiguous in the right places, expressive in the right places, learnable, kind, fraud-resistant, play-friendly, grief-capable. We will design examples you can use before breakfast and structures you can train teams to carry. We will be honest about where the dream breaks and where it becomes real enough to change a day. For now, keep the seashell, hold it to your ear, listen not for a code but for a promise, that between your mouth and another mind there is a narrow bridge that can be strengthened, that a sentence, chosen with care and delivered with attention, is the smallest durable thing we can make together, that while we may never speak without loss, we can decide what we refuse to lose. Chapter 2. How to build what we mean. On the first morning of the workshop, we put the coffee on and dragged a dented whiteboard into the light. The sign on the door was not grand, Language Lab, temporary. 12 chairs, one long table, a chipped ceramic bowl full of marker pens. Our goal was not to invent a new tongue that would colonize the world. It was smaller and braver. To design pockets of near-perfection kits and practices that make misunderstanding rarer, harm harder, care easier, and truth more visible. No confetti, no manifesto. Just people who needed language to work better in places where failure hurts. There was the nurse who had lost a patient after a garbled handoff. The union steward who had watched a company memo erase a promise with 5 words of corporate fog. The teenager who wanted to tell his father why he was scared without sounding like a stranger. The flight instructor who taught clarity with a stopwatch. The playwright who knew that conversation was combat and comfort and choreography. The software architect who had spent 3 months hunting a bug named probably. The kindergarten teacher who understood more about repair than any of us. We began with a confession circle, each of us telling a story of a sentence that went wrong. We listened without diagnosis. It was astonishing, and in a way consoling. Nobody in that room had a spotless record. Perfect language is less likely to be an inheritance than a craft we keep relearning. Then we set a rule for the week that felt like a small revolution. Every design we made had to be testable by someone who had slept badly, had 10 minutes, and cared about the outcome. If perfection cannot survive fatigue, it cannot serve real life. We wrote that over the door. Good enough when you're tired. What follows is not a sermon. It's a field manual born from that week and from years of try and fail. Think of it as a rucksack, tools arranged for quick reach. You won't need every tool every day, but the more you carry them, the more you'll feel where the weight belongs. Principles before protocols. We started by agreeing on properties that any locally perfect language practice should satisfy. Not slogans, properties we could check. Purpose. Clear. Every act of speech declares its aim, not merely to inform, but to decide, to comfort, to warn, to coordinate, to ask for help, to disagree safely. Hidden aims are sand in the gears, audience fitted. The same meaning is packaged differently for different listeners. Readability is not condescension, it's respect. Unambiguous where it matters. Critical pieces, time, quantity, responsibility, thresholds, are precise. Poetry can surround them. The bolts should not wiggle, error tolerant. Built-in redundancy and checks catch drift. What if the room is loud? What if the reader is distracted? What if the speaker is nervous? Repair friendly. When breakdown happens, and it will, the language itself includes handles for repair without shame. Say back to me what you heard. I may have said that badly. Let me try again. Kind by default. Politeness can be performative, but kindness as a design element reduces fear and raises bandwidth. People listen better when they feel safe. Accountability, preserving. No sentence should be so smooth it dodges ownership. Who decides? Who is responsible? What will happen next? Culture honoring. The design must not bulldoze dialect, identity, or play. It should bend around people's music, not flatten it. Multimodal. Words are not the only carriers. The same meaning should travel in a diagram, a checklist, an example, a gesture, so one failure mode doesn't doom the message. Scalable. Good for a kitchen, good for a team, good for an organization without becoming brittle when scaled. If you want a mnemonic, we used PAUERKACMS, which is horrible. The playwright suggested this instead. Fit, fix, feel, and face fit to purpose and people. Fix the critical bits, feel for kindness, face responsibility, messy but memorable. IK. The 4 questions before you speak. We trained ourselves to pause for 10 seconds and ask, what outcome do I need from this exchange? What does the listener need to feel to help that outcome safe, respected, urgent, included? What is the one piece that must be unambiguous? Time, number, threshold, owner. How will I check we matched? These 4 do not slow you down. They stop you from driving in circles. Try them on anything from text me when you arrive to we need to roll back the deployment. You will notice that many arguments begin because #1 and #2 are unexamined. You wanted a decision. The other person thought you wanted sympathy. You wanted urgency. Your words made them feel judged. A perfect sentence for the wrong aim is a polite failure. It's micro-languages, small kits for specific jobs. Rather than chase a universal tongue, we built micro-languages, compact sets of phrases, structures, and rituals optimized for a domain. Each micro-language comes with a declaration of scope, required phrases, taboos, a repair script, and a test. The safety code for emergencies and high-stakes handoffs. Scope: hospitals, cockpits, incident response, construction sites, labs, anywhere. Stakes are immediate. Required phrases: stop, halt action now. I see hazard. I makes ownership clear. Now name and fixes reference. Confirm, instruction. Read back. Time is HHMM. Synchronize clocks. Owner of next action is name, deadline, time. Explicit responsibility. Taboos. Looks fine. Meaningless. Soon, later, as soon as possible. Replace with clocks. Pronouns without antecedents. Move it. Repair script. Say back the plan. I heard X. I might be wrong. Can you check Y? Test. Run a 10-minute drill with noise music at mid-volume. Rate comprehension and speed. Measure how many times someone asked, "Wait, what?" Adjust. We learn to prize short, declarative sentences like clean knots. In the nurses' ward, they adopted the 3 C's for handoffs. Condition, what's true. Course, what's happened. Contingency, what to do if X. They posted it on the wall and shaved 5 minutes off each shift change while catching more near misses. The care code for comfort, de-escalation, apology. Scope: homes, classrooms, customer support, leadership. Required phrases: I'm here. Presence before analysis. What matters most to you right now? Center the other's aim. Let me say back what I heard. Mirroring: you're right about specific. I was wrong about specific. I will do repair. 3-part apology. Do you want ideas or just a listener? Consent for advice. Taboos: calm down. Never works. At least minimizes. If you felt that way. Conditionalizing someone's reality. Repair script: I said that badly. I meant X. Can we rewind 30 seconds? I want to try again. Test. The 10-minute tension. Role play a common conflict. Rate cortisol with a pulse check or breath count. See if both feel more seen after 3 minutes. The kindergarten teacher taught us a sentence that felt like grace. You're safe with me, and we can fix this. It does 2 jobs at once: regulate the nervous system and orient toward action. In families and teams, it became a portable porch. The decision code for meetings and threads that actually end. Scope: teams, committees, boards, friend groups choosing a restaurant. Required phrases. Decision type: inform, consult, consent, delegate, decide. Deciders. Names. Inputs close at time. Options on the table. A, B, C. Decision: X. Owner, name, by, date, time. Logged. Taboos. We'll circle back. Means bury. Everyone weigh in whenever. Means never decide. Repair script: this is stuck. We need to pick a decision type now. I object because criterion. I'll accept if condition. Test. And the week later check. Did action happen? If not, which field was missing? Decider. Deadline. Owner. A 1-page decision template reduced our meeting load by 1/3. The union steward used it to force clarity into a labor management committee. When the employer is required to consult but not agree, naming the decision type made the limits visible and saved hours of theater. The Dissent code for saying no in a way that strengthens the group. Scope: teams, families, communities, public forums. Required phrases: I'm with the aim. I differ on the approach. Affirm aim, then object. Here's the risk I see. Specific: my alternative is X because reason. What evidence would change my mind is Y. Openness. This is a values clash. Value versus value. Name the real thing. Taboos. This is dumb. Obviously, as everyone knows, status plays. Motive guessing. You just want. Repair script: I came in hot. Let me try in good faith. Restate: can we bracket motives and test claims? Test: The heat test. Present a touchy issue. Can dissenters speak without punishment? Does the group separate person from position? If not, adjust norms. After 2 tense weeks, a startup used the Dissent code to navigate whether to ship with known bugs. The sentence, "I'm with the aim of hitting the window. I differ on shipping with bug names because risk is greater than reward," cut 3 hours of fog. The play code for humor and creative exchange without shrapnel. Scope. Writers' rooms, friend groups, classrooms. Required phrases. Green light mode. No critique yet. Red light mode. Critique welcome. Aim is to improve criteria. Off-limits topics. List. Aftercare if a joke lands wrong. Ritual. Taboos. It's just a joke. Silence is feedback. If you're sensitive, don't. Punishes the receiver. Repair script. That didn't land the way I hoped. I see how it hurt. Here's what I meant. I'm sorry. No conditional. Test. Laughter without exile. After a session, does the quietest person come back next time? If not, your play budget is too expensive. This code saved a theater workshop when a cheap joke about an accent chilled the room. A simple ritual. Pause, own, repair, reset. Let the class keep its daring without losing its people. These kits are not exhaustive. You'll make your own, a feedback code, a money talk code, a breakup code, a parenting in public code. Notice what goes wrong most often in your world. Designed for that. The checklists we reach for. Clarity and kindness improve with scaffolds. We collected a handful that travel well, the one breath rule. If a message won't fit in one calm breath, split it. Breath limits force hierarchy. Start with the outcome, not the preamble. The flag system. Begin messages with a bracketed flag. Decision needed. For your information, venting, advice request, emergency, brainstorm. It aligns expectations like rails. The 2 clocks. Always double anytime reference at 14:30 to 30 p.m. and include a time zone if it could be ambiguous. Add today, tomorrow, spelled out with the date. The triangle. When naming responsibility, draw a triangle in your mind with 3 points. Owner, who does it. Checker, who verifies. Notified, who's informed. Name all 3 in one sentence. The layer cake. Say it 3 ways. If the stakes are high, plain sentence, example, and counterexample. By no pets, we mean no cats or dogs. Service animals are not pets. They are welcome. The paraphrase, permission. Build a culture where "can you say that back?" is not a power move but a courtesy. The ownership pronoun. Prefer I and we with subjects and verbs over there is and it should. It puts human hands on the steering wheel, the door handle. End with a handle the next step someone can grip. Call me by 5. Reply yes to confirm. Click the form. Take a walk. We'll reconvene at noon. These are small. Small is the size of what works. The metrics of fit. We tested our designs with 3 simple metrics. They won't impress a laboratory, but they guide improvement. Time to match. How long does it take for speaker and listener to agree on what will happen next? We used a timer and logged minutes. Misfire rate. How often do actions miss because meanings drifted? Count weekly. Trend down is success. Felt safety index. After an exchange, do participants report A. Understanding the aim. B. Feeling respected. C. knowing the next step. Quick, 3-question pulse. A hospital team adopted the safety code and watched their misfire rate fall by half in 6 weeks. A family kept a fridge whiteboard for the care code and noticed fewer spirals. A software team halved, "Did you mean?" threads. By adopting decision flags, metrics are not the whole story. They are headlights. Perfection without measures is a vibe. With measures, it becomes practice. Case files. A. The handoff. Context. Night shift to day shift in a busy ward. Problem. Details get lost in the fog. Near misses abound. Design. 3C structure on a laminated card. Each handoff must include condition, course, contingency. Clocks synced at the start. Ownership named aloud. Owner for next labs is Mia. Check at 10. Notify Ravi. Result. Handoffs dropped from 12 minutes to 7. Nurses reported feeling less dread. One contingency script caught an early bleed. B. The kitchen fight. Context. 2 partners, late, hungry, broke. Problem. You never meets you always. Design. Care code plus door handle. One partner opens with, "I'm with you, I'm tired too." Both answer, "What matters most right now? Food versus fairness versus rest." Apology script used for the sharp edge. Decision code closes. "Tonight, we'll order cheap noodles, I'll do dishes. Saturday, we budget at 11. Result, not a movie montage. Just a tension that did not spill over. Repairs made before midnight. A fridge note, budget at 11. They both showed up. C. The public statement. Context. Company must announce a painful layoff. Problem. If vague, panic and cynicism. If cold, cruelty. Design, purpose declared. Inform and honor. Audience fitted. Employees first, then public. Unambiguous where it matters. Who, when, severance specifics, support resources. Accountability. Who decided and why. Kindness built in. Name the loss, provide a ritual, memory wall. Real names if consented. Repair scripts. Town hall with real questions and "I don't know yet" allowed. Result, pain, yes, less erosion of trust. People said, "I wasn't blindsided." They looked me in the eye. The difference between a wound and a scar. D. The code review. Context. A team reviewing a colleague's work. Problem. Defensive spirals, status games. Design. Flags, green, explore, red, critique. Dissent code for objections. Decision code at end. What must change by when, owner named. Care code overlays tone. Praise specifics before critique. Treat bugs as behaviors, not identities. Result? Fewer flame threads. The junior dev spoke more. The senior dev apologized once, and the apology stuck. AI. The edges where we fail. We map the places where even our best kits wobble. This is where humility earns its keep. Asymmetric power. When one party can punish the other, language can be spotless and still unsafe. Design helps, but structure matters. If you cannot dissent without fear, no code saves you. The fix is policy, trauma, and physiological flooding. In panic, nobody parses fine print. We need pre-trained scripts and body practices, slow breath, eye contact, more than eloquence. The perfect language for a nervous system is safety, cultural frames, A sentence that repairs in one culture, wounds in another. Look at me is respect here, insolence there. Perfection must include learn before you land. Digital channels, text strips tone, emoji are not universal, sarcasm metastasizes. We need explicit markers, joke, sincere, more examples, more read back, or we need to move the conversation to a channel with more bandwidth. Bad faith. No language works when the aim is to deceive. The best we can do is make deception costlier by logging decisions, by naming aims, by using public checklists, by teaching people to hear power plays. We ended the week with a board full of edge cases. No shame in the limits. They keep us honest. VI. Teaching the craft. If you want a community to speak better, stop treating language as common sense. Everyone thinks they have it. Nobody has the same version. Make it teachable. Post your codes on the wall. Fridge. Wiki. Practice drills when you're not on fire. 10 minutes a week beats 2 hours during a crisis. Reward repair. Publicly thank the person who asks, "Can we rewind?" or the one who says, "I was wrong." Rotate facilitation. The person with the quietest voice will design the kindest handle. Make apprenticeships. Pair a veteran communicator with a new member. Debrief failures without blame. Extract the rule, not the shame. Language skills are trades. You learn by watching hands. And X, the ethical core. A perfect language divorced from ethics is a weapon. Our kids have moral assumptions baked in. People deserve to be understood without humiliation. Clarity should not erase complexity that matters to people's lives. Responsibility should be assignable. Power should be visible. Dissent is not damage, it's maintenance. Play is not trivial, it's oxygen. Repair is a virtue, shame is not a teacher. You can't compile these into a syntax. You can live them into a culture. X, a map you can draw on a napkin. When my grandfather died, I found in his desk a hand-drawn map of our town, the same map he'd used to teach me how to ride my bike to the bakery without crossing the big road. He'd shaded safe alleys and circled quiet corners. I keep it in a drawer near my desk, and when I teach the lab, I draw a map like his, but for talk. 2 bridges, steel and wood between people. On the steel bridge, safety code, decision code, Dissent code with rails. On the wooden bridge, care code, play code, story. On both banks. Flags, clocks, triangles, breath. Along the path, benches labeled repair. At the center, a square with a tree called "What Matters Most to You Right Now." If a town can make a child braver with a good map, a culture can make a conversation braver with a good set of streets. She. The small script that saves days. You do not need to renovate your language overnight. Start with one script, one place that hurts. If you run a team, adopt the decision code for 1 meeting a week. If you teach, adopt the care code for one kind of correction. If you live with someone, put "Do you want solutions or company?" on a sticky note where you can see it. If you're a nurse or a tech or a foreman, pilot the safety code on one shift. If you're a poet, add an aftercare ritual to your workshop. If you're a teenager, practice the Dissent sentence in the mirror until it sits in your mouth without tremor. Perfection is a horizon. Practice is the road. DI. Something like an answer. We promise to answer the question, not just orbit it. Could a perfect language exist? not as a single code that any two strangers can speak at any time to say everything that matters with zero loss and zero harm. That dream flattens people into pins on a map. But yes, thousands of local perfections exist and can be built, taught, and tuned. They serve us best when we design them as part of a larger ecology, habits and policies, rooms and rituals, kindness and accountability. A good sentence carries farther in a fair world. A perfect sentence lands in a listening one. C.E. The last lesson of the Seashell. On the last day of the lab, we walked to the water. It was not a glorious beach. A strip of gray sand, a wind that stung a little. I brought a box of plastic seashells and one real one from my grandfather's shore. We played a game. We held them to our ears and took turns translating the ocean for someone we loved. The teenager said, "To my father, I am not your enemy. I need you to stay curious about me. I know it's new," the nurse said. "To my night shift self, you are allowed to ask for help before you cry." The union steward said, "To my people, we don't have to win every fight to keep each other whole." The flight instructor said, "To my students, say the scary thing out loud the first time. It won't own you after that." The playwright said, "To my audience, I will not make jokes that cost your dignity." The teacher said, simply, "To my classroom, you are safe with me and we can fix this." I held the real shell. I thought of a man who taught me to listen for patterns in the noise and also to keep a bicycle pump handy and to carry a snack in my pocket for the walk home. I thought of every false promise of a perfect language and of every sturdy truth we had found. What I said into the shell, into the wind, was this: we can do better than we did yesterday. We can build what we mean. I do not know what the ocean said back. Perhaps what it always says, that everything meaningful is wave and shore together, motion and boundary, the music and the rock, that no single sound is the truth, but many together can be steady. That you understand a sea not by defining it once, but by learning how to cross it when it is calm and when it is rough, with a boat sound enough for both. If you need a mantra to take with you, make it short and sturdy. Name the aim, fit the listener, pin the critical, leave room for repair. Be kind, own it, learn the culture, use more than words, scale with care. A perfect language lives inside that rhythm, not a static cathedral, but a living practice, made of bridges we maintain, porches we share, and sentences that behave like handrails when we're tired. Keep your tools light. Keep your promises heavy. Keep your ear to the shell, not to decode the ocean, but to remember that we are always speaking across noise, and that with attention, humility, and craft, we can make meaning travel farther than we feared. If you're listening to this as an audiobook on a bus or in a kitchen or while folding laundry, consider this an invitation to try one thing today. Pick one conversation you care about and put a small perfection inside it. Use a flag. Ask for the aim. Name the owner. Offer aftercare. Log the decision. Stop when you need to stop. Apologize well. Laugh without exile. Teach one person the phrase, "Say that back to me." You will not fix the world with a sentence, but you will fix a corner of one moment. And corners add up to rooms. Rooms add up to homes. Homes add up to neighborhoods that speak a little more clearly, a little more gently, a little more bravely. In that sense, the only sense that matters to a life, the answer is yes. A perfect language can exist wherever two people are willing to build it together, one breath, one bridge, one careful word at a time.